Anyone who knows me well wouldn't be too surprised to discover that I can tell you the very first album I ever bought was Lighthouse Live at a Hills department store. My sister Joanne recommended it to me, and that was in Niagara Falls, New York. Shortly after that, a 13-year-old me purchased Chicago's Greatest Hits. It's one of the first 5 albums I ever bought. There's something about pop music with brass instruments that just sounds great. And when you add an orchestra, it's even better. And I think Niagara Symphony's Brad Thachuk agrees. Would I be right?
Yeah, it's a fun show, and it's different from, like, we're starting to do a lot of these kind of rock shows to appeal to that demographic and just trying to bring new people into the house. And each one that we've done is quite different. Like, we just did the Sarah Slean, which was doing Joni Mitchell, which was very kind of mellow and largely orchestra driven. And then we had the Deep Purple show, where it was kind of a hybrid of rock and roll, but we built it with the orchestra in mind. This one is, Chicago is actually, the music of Chicago is perfect because it is kind of, again, a completely different iteration of what we're trying to do, because it's a band that has orchestral instruments in it, which makes it very easy to incorporate into an orchestra show. It's really exciting.
Brass Transit, can you tell me a little bit about them? How long have they been doing this Chicago set?
I've worked with the keyboardist Don Breithout before. He came through when we were doing the Canadian Songbook a few years ago. And Paul DeLong, the drummer, used to be with Kim Mitchell, for example. But this band also has been a farm team for the actual Chicago, because one of their previous singers is now the singer who tours with Chicago for real.
Right.
So it's almost like this is the farm team. I guess if somebody in Chicago gets COVID, they can just go into Brass Transit and pick out someone. But I've been aware of it for quite a while, so probably a decade. And I'm sure it goes back a little bit further. But you know, when I first got here, the orchestra wasn't in a place, and we didn't have a hall to present acts like this. And now that we've got this hall and the orchestra is playing at this incredibly high level, that's it. It was a perfect timing. This show is actually something we had booked for right before everything went down.
Right.
So this is a contract that's been on the books for a few years now. So it's great to finally have them come in.
They look at pretty much the entire career of Chicago as well, right? I mean,
yes.
When I talk about Chicago's Greatest Hits, that was 1975, I think, when I bought that album.
Yeah.
You know, there's dozens of years following that where Peter Cetera's voice became the front piece.
I will admit that because their catalog's so deep, I actually had to go to Apple Music and find some of the songs.
Well, it's hard too, because all the albums were Chicago 1, Chicago 2, Chicago 4, Roman numerals.
Yeah, and it covers the whole span. Yes, if you're a fan of the Peter Cetera, 80s pop era of Chicago, it's there. If you're there for the more fusiony, early Chicago, jazzy, it's there. I mean, it is a proper perspective of of Chicago's songbook.
Do orchestral musicians recognize Chicago for their musicianship? Is that something that's normal there?
Orchestral musicians appreciate people. They don't like charlatans. They appreciate people with talent. So even if it's not the kind of music they will go home and listen to, they can definitely identify that, yes, that's a serious musician.
You're doing 2 shows this weekend. It's Easter weekend. Is that complicating things with ticket sales?
When everything came back up and we started late, there was a calendar crunch because everyone with all the rebook shows, some of us had 2 years of shows that we're trying to squeeze in, and there's only so many weekends. So you have to make compromises with all your partners, with the hall and the other groups that want to go in and use the hall. And one of the ones that we had to take this year, and we've only done it once before, and yes, we've done concerts on Easter, and they've been problematic. And I hope we don't get put on Easter again. This being said, I expected a nightmare, and right now we're sitting at about 66% sales on both shows.
Great.
So maybe Easter this time. I feel that Easter, Easter weekend's not the perfect weekend for some people. The Saturday is there specifically for those people who definitely can't come on Sunday.
Right.
But I just feel that people are so tired of being at home that maybe in a normal year we'd have less people on an Easter weekend, but since we're just so ready to be out and going to concerts again, the sales this weekend are much better than I thought they would be.
How much fun do you have as a conductor conducting the orchestra for these kinds of shows? It's a little different than your normal classical music show.
For the band out there, it's very fun. For me, I think at some point I lock in and I'm really enjoying, like I always enjoy my job. But there's a business end to this, which is I've got musicians who have seen this music once. We rehearsed this morning or whatever. And I've got to keep this together. So there is I find that there is a settling in period, and then I can kind of let go. So yes, I enjoy it, but it's not one of those moments where you can just you can't enjoy it to the point where you're not monitoring the situation.
Right.
Like there is a very because shows like this are very, very intricate to put together. It looks easy from the audience.
It's a long day for you and for the musicians.
It's a long day, and it's a long day for the band, for Brass Transit coming in too, because essentially because of the schedule, they have to come in and, we're rehearsing at 2 in the afternoon to 5, and then they have a short dinner. It's especially hard on the singers because, and a lot of times in these rehearsals, I won't ever hear the singer because they're sitting there saving their voice.
Right.
And I just work with the band. So and then they get a 2.5 hour off for dinner, and then boom, we're on stage. It's a long day. So yeah, I should probably. It's fun. It's very fun, but I take it really seriously because I don't. There's no room for error. I mean, and by the way, most bands that come in, the difference we have with like Brass Transit is they've done it together so much.
Right.
That they are just, it just comes right out of them. Where for some people on stage, it's not music they've listened to, and you have to pay attention to that. So it's a fine balancing act between enjoying it and being very business oriented, being very clear about what has to go down. Of course, I get lost in it sometimes, but those are also in those moments. There are moments in a show that you can identify that are so well written, or there's always a moment in a show where everything is clicking, and you just look around and you go, okay, this is what it means. Because after nerves, or we sort out the sound, because the sound is weird on stage sometimes. We don't hear what the audience hears.
Right.
And then when all of a sudden everything's sorted and everything clicks, you can just feel this collective, okay, let's go. That kind of, we're ready to go. Like a race car is just, they've got the tires heated up and it's time to let loose for your fast lap.
We're going to hear that this Saturday, 7:30, and Sunday at 2:30 at Partridge Hall. Brad, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.